Hello bitches, welcome back to my channel. So this is a belated comic for Valentine's Day, in which I did post this comic on my Instagram for Valentine's Day, but in terms of having it on YouTube, it's belated, I guess. But anyway, the comic is pretty much kind of about expectations versus reality or something like that, or more of, what you see online versus what happens in real life behind these, super ideal picture perfect pictures that you see. So I just wanted to do that for Valentine's Day because usually that's a day where you just see everybody just totally in love and having a great time, which I think is great. I think everyone should celebrate, all their wins in life and celebrate their love and happiness for each other, but also have others out there remember that this is not the way it always is all the time for everyone, just so you know, because a lot of people nowadays are comparing themselves to what they see on social media because we tend to just share the highlights of our lives, which I think that's fine if that's what you're comfortable with sharing. But just for those who need that reminder, this is not the way life always is, and people usually will just share what they're comfortable with sharing. But yeah, anyways, after that long PSA, I figured that for today's video, I would talk about why you're not growing as an artist, because some of you might feel like you're plateauing in different aspects of being an artist, and here are some reasons why I think you might not be growing. But yeah, obviously I don't know you or your situation, but I know that I have definitely struggled myself with certain times with my own artwork, and I felt like I was just plateauing and not growing. So maybe the reasons that I feel this way could be also reasons that some of you might feel this way. So usually the first reason why a lot of people are not growing and just plateauing as artists is just because you're not getting out of your comfort zone. And I know I talk about this a lot. You can check out other videos I've made before about getting out of your comfort zone. But I feel like when we are just kind of known for a style, we just tend to stick to it just because, that's just what we're known for. This has been tried and tested and this works, and that's great. I think it's good to just spend time really milking a certain art style, or just spending time doing things a certain way just so you really understand it completely, because there are some people who just try things and then just never do it again, and I would rather us spend some time actually doing it. But then once you spend a lot of time working this certain way, you might get a little too comfortable in it and you might not do other things again. So that's when I would say it's maybe time to just try experimenting in another style. So for example, on my Instagram, I don't know if some of you might or might not have noticed, but I tend to switch up the style of how I do comics a lot. One time it was just kind of like pink succubushes style. Then one time it's just like this very minimalistic, just simple black and white with a splash of color style. And then now I'm going like all realistic, but not realistic, but like somewhat Disney anime mixture. I don't fucking know. So the reason why I do this every year is just because I feel like it helps freshen me up and just have a year of just telling stories a certain way just based on my own life on my Instagram again. So for a while I really got comfortable just doing the pink horn demon girl stories, but I feel like just ready to tell more authentic, emotional stories from my life, because I used to be really embarrassed about telling something that's super deep, and I'll be like, oh, people will think this is super cheesy and corny. But now I'm just like, I feel like I would regret it if I just never at least tried. So that's kind of what I've been doing on my Instagram. That's why my style is a little bit more realistic, is because I'm trying to make a style that kind of fits these more deeper emotional stories that, require me to wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit more. So if you've found yourself at a rut with your own art or your stories and you just kind of are sick and tired of what you've been doing, if you've, for example, been doing just very cute, simple comics, maybe let's try doing something more deep and complex or something like that, and just spend a few weeks doing it at first, or try to go for a few months doing it, like do a series of 10 drawings or a series of 10 comics with a certain set theme and style, and just see where it takes you. So I think it's great to get out of your comfort zone and actually spend time out of your comfort zone, because I know a lot of people do one of those like, ooh, draw this in like 6 different styles, but it's like you only draw it that one time and that's it, and you just never draw in that style again. So it doesn't really become ingrained in you until you do it for a certain amount of time, which is why it's sometimes nice to jump on different projects in animation, because you're always kind of forced to adapt to a new style or show all over again, and it kind of forces you to adopt these certain ways of doing things and apply it to your own style if it works. So the next reason why you might not be growing as an artist is probably because you're learning something the incorrect way for yourself. So you could be learning from a teacher or a video or somewhere on Skillshare. This video is not sponsored by them, unfortunately. And you could be learning in a way that just for some reason does not click with your brain. It could be totally correct, they're totally right, but for some reason that's just not the way that your brain likes to learn. So one of the questions I always get is, how do I get good at drawing anatomy and human bodies? Because that tends to always be the subject of a lot of illustrations, comics, and drawings, is people. And if you struggle to really draw people, then it kind of makes everything else a bit of a struggle. So I would say that for me, figure drawings, life drawing classes, doing it kind of nonstop for months is what really helped propel my skills in just drawing people and being able to draw them clearly and understandably. But that might not work for everybody. There are some people who actually learn better from just reading a book and it talks about why the arm and leg functions in this way, and they can just draw the leg and arm right after that. Well, guess what? I'm not one of those people, and I cannot just read a book and suddenly get good at drawing an arm or a leg, but for some people that actually works. So if you feel like you are struggling to draw bodies or human bodies, and the way that you're doing it is either reading a book, but you haven't been practicing it a lot, maybe try forcing yourself to go to life drawing classes for months or weeks at a time where you're really exposed to just drawing it all the time. And if you've already been doing that and that's not working for you, then maybe try reading the book and try to see if you can understand from an explanation that's written a little bit better. But basically what I'm trying to say is that if you feel like you're struggling to grow as an artist in creating a certain thing, try to rethink the way that you are learning how to do this thing and see if you can learn it better in a different way. So the next reason that you might not be growing as an artist is probably because you might be suffering from analyzation paralysis, and that gets to all of us who are perfectionists, and I feel like if you're a creative, you might get overly perfectionist sometimes with your drawings or your art. So I feel like when it comes to this, if you find yourself just erasing a drawing, starting all over again, starting all over again, just because you can't get something right, I would say that during a time like that, done is better than perfect. So over winter break, when I was trying to figure out my new style of comics that I should do for Instagram, I wanted it to be like a certain level of rough and clean, where it's just like I want it to be clean enough that you understand what's going on, but still rough enough that it's like, you know, loose and still enjoyable for me to draw without worrying about like every single gap filled in this drawing. Like I like having some colors colored over the lines instead of just all perfectly inside the lines, you know, because that level of imperfection makes something feel a little bit more loose, and I wanted to really maintain that in all my comics. But for some reason, when I was trying to experiment with the style, nothing was coming out the way I wanted it to, and it just really made me frustrated with my art, and I ended up just wasting so much time frustrated over just a style of my drawing instead of just getting it done and getting it out there. Because guess what? If you at least get something done, you at least get half of it out of the way, and you can move on and look back at this drawing and be like, hey, this is something that I can learn from. And you just learn so much faster like that, instead of just constantly obsessing over perfecting this drawing. I feel like you just don't really learn much other than the fact that you're a perfectionist. So if you're ever in a state where you realize that you're spending like an hour on just fixing this one thing, that's when you know, hey, let's just leave it as a flaw and let's just move on, because even if it's just a flaw, at least I know that my 20 drawings in the future will look better than this. So the next reason why you might not be growing as an artist, and this one might be controversial for some people, is that maybe that you're not accepting enough criticism or you're not receiving enough criticism on your artwork. And of course, I mean constructive criticism, because there's always the haters out there that just don't provide you with any constructive way to actually grow, and they just hate on you for some stupid reason. So I think that if you're an artist, it's always good to just have another pair of eyes, look at your work so that you can get another perspective, because when you look at a certain thing for so long, things will just start looking a certain way for you, and you might just grow comfortable with just how you create your art, which I think is great. But if you do want to grow and just learn other things beyond just your style, it always helps to get feedback from others, especially maybe someone who is a higher up from you, or someone who is more experienced, or someone who draws in a style that you've always wanted to draw in. So criticism is good and healthy when you receive it from people who are, of course, respectful and genuinely care about your growth, and will actually give you like things like, hey, if you want to draw arms better, here's what you can do, something like that. But I know that a lot of people also tend to shy away from criticism because you're putting yourself in a very vulnerable position, which I totally understand, because you put all of your heart and emotions into this drawing or whatever, and then now someone's gonna say shit about it. But trust me, it is always helpful to just get a second pair of eyes on it. And one benefit of working in animation is you're pretty much always gonna have your work criticized, so that could be a good or bad thing for some people. But if anything, I feel like with the right set of people there to critique your work, you're always gonna grow and learn something, because they see something that you can't, and they learned this certain thing from somewhere, and they're passing on this knowledge to you. So if you feel like you get a little bit shy of criticism and you're kind of scared of other people's critique or feedback, just know that these people usually are here to really just help you give the answers that you've been struggling to look for with your work. And if you just let this person critique you, you're probably going to have a quicker solution to many of your future problems instead of you always figuring it out on your own. So the last reason why you might not be growing as an artist is maybe because you're not putting enough of your heart into your work. And you might be wondering, isn't that like a contradiction? Because when you're drawing or creating art, you're always pouring your heart into it, right? But no, that is definitely not the case. I feel like I can definitely say this as someone who has been through many years of art school and then now working in the industry. Even if you draw, even though this sprouted as something that was a genuine interest for you as a child that then grew into a passion, this skill of yours can always become something that is like from a factory. Like, I have been in many situations where I just felt like a shell of myself, just in autopilot mode, just pumping out drawings, like, just, is this hitting the correct acting, correct cinematography, correct facial expressions? Great. It's like, I know what is needed to be done to communicate this certain drawing clearly, but I'm not always like enjoying myself or just really showing that, you know, I'm really having fun with this drawing. So that sometimes shows through when your drawings tend to look a little bit more mechanical and not really have as much feeling into the work. So when it comes to a time like that, I would say definitely take a break from drawing. Just don't draw for a moment, because maybe you're burnt out. Maybe you're just tired of drawing the same shit all over again. So I feel like it helps to just take a break from drawing for that reason and then revisit it again. But in a way, try to find a way to really enjoy drawing again. Like, what is it about drawing that really gets to you, or what motivates you about creating art? Is it about sharing your memories? Is it about getting a point across that you've always wanted to say? Is it like you really love these characters from this film and drawing fan art or something is the best way that you can get yourself to really love drawing again? Because it's not always about the content of the drawing you did that matters. Sometimes it's about what drawing this thing did for you that matters. Because if drawing this thing, like if it's fan art or something, is what's going to motivate you to continue to be able to create more art in a happier way, then just keep doing it and don't give a shit about what other people think, because slow and steady wins the race, as they say. Anyway, those are just some of the things that I kind of keep in mind anytime I feel like I'm not growing as an artist, and I'll ask myself, am I doing these things, and try to get into doing some of them if I do find myself plateauing. So I hope this helped any of you who are currently feeling like you're plateauing, not growing, or just feeling blah about your art. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I will see you all in the next one. If you want to check out this comic, it's on my Instagram and the links below. So peace out and stay wholesome, bitches.